So you just bought yourself some beautiful yarn in skein form, and you can't knit from a skein. How do I make it into a cake? I got you covered. Hey guys, it's Katie here. The Katie behind Katie DeGraff Knits and all of the lovely videos you see here on my channel. Please take a moment to consider subscribing so you don't miss another one of my videos. And when you're done with this, don't forget to check out my podcast. So, we all love buying hand-dyed yarn, but you cannot knit straight from skein form. Majority of us prefer cakes. So how do we get there? I'm going to show you what I use, tips and tricks I like to follow, and mistakes I've made. So stay tuned for those. You can avoid purchasing anything. You can take your skein of yarn, drape it around a chair, drape it around someone's arms, drape it around your knees and your feet, and hand wind a ball. That is perfectly usable, and that is okay. It's zero cost. Just takes a little bit of time. You need to do whatever is best for your situation at that time and your space, budget, everything. So, zero cost, drape your skein around something and hand wind a ball. Now, even if you are a monogamous knitter who only knits a few projects a year, I really highly recommend getting yourself a ball winder and Swift. They're one of the first two purchases I would make, and I did make as a new knitter. Another option for you, if you do not have the space, you don't want to deal with buying a Swift and a winder, the better majority of local yarn stores, actually I don't believe I've ever been in one or seen one that doesn't offer this service, they will offer a yarn winding service. Either for a small fee, or if you buy the yarn there, they will be happy to wind it up for you so you can take it home, ready to use. Most online retailers, dyers and shops alike, will also offer a yarn winding service for a small fee. This may delay your order just a little bit, depending on their backlog and their, availability to do this, but they can do it for you. So you do have options. You can hand wind balls, or you can pay somebody else to do it. Some of us do not have the space to set up a Swift and winder. We literally don't have anywhere to do it. You do have options. I will get to what I use. My winder of choice, I'm an OG girl. I have an OG Royal ball winder. They did go out of business a couple of years ago, and I was so sad when I found out they went out of business that my husband jumped on eBay and found me another one, which I grabbed immediately, to put aside for when and if this one decides to actually meet his demise. Ball winders are stereotypically all plastic, and this style are really all the same. The cheaper ones, obviously, they're probably cheaper for a reason. Plastic components are probably a lot thinner. I mean, a lot of things you get what you pay for, but a winder's a winder. It's all the same general idea. Now, there are electric ball winders. Those scare me. I do not own one. I never say never. I can't ever say that I won't ever get one eventually. For now, I'm just gonna hand wind off my winder. So you will notice this nifty little arm serves a purpose, which I will show you. Then they will all come with an adjustable bracket that you use to mount them somewhere. If you're one of the lucky few who has a craft room or somewhere that you can leave your winder and Swift set up, congratulations, you only have to do this once. Next up, you're gonna need a Swift. You're gonna need something to put that yarn on, which is going to rotate in some fashion to go from skein to winder. So typically you're gonna find umbrella Swifts, and they're called umbrella Swifts because they open like an umbrella. These can be any price range. change. Again, this is something that I really think you get what you pay for. There are ones on Amazon for, 20 bucks. They're sort of a collapsible, retractable metal. I just see those as something that's going to collapse too much and end up in a tangled mess. If you were to start out with a Swift, my first Swift was a Knit Picks Umbrealla wooden Swift. The ties on it went, which aren't really a super big problem because you have a lot of yarn laying around. You just tie them back up. But what did me in was once you raise them, there was a wooden stop that screwed in, and mine stopped screwing. It just didn't stay tight. So I did the whole masking tape thing for a couple of years and painter's tape. And then I saw Alpenglow was developing a glider Swift. I saw this thing in development. I knew I had to have one. I just held out. Kept my masking tape deal going. I even was so mad at that. Sometimes I would hand wind balls. But this is the pièce de résistance. This is a beautiful piece of art. It does cost a pretty penny, but it's really very, very versatile and worth it. And I don't see myself ever having to buy another Swift again. I'll tell you just a couple of the points that I love about it. This is your vertical orientation. If I unscrew it, pop it out, put it down here, I now have a horizontal orientation. So whatever situation you're in or you have space available, it works for you. Also, the clamp is much larger than any other Swift that I've had. And you can pick your colors. They're all handmade. It's amazing. And one finger construction. It's so cool. So now we'll take it down. Bang. So this is my Swift of choice. It is from Alpenglow. This is 100% not sponsored, FYI. Totally worth the money. They're amazing. So Umbrealla Swift or Swift of choice. They do make tabletop Swifts, portable Swifts. There's all kinds. Whatever your situation is and your space, chances are you can find something. Okay, I have these tools. What do I do with them? So I'm going to set everything up for you, tell you why I set it up that way, and we're going to get something wound. I really only have this space in my house right now that fits my winding needs. This is our dining room. I can't leave this up all the time. So I set it up, wind what I need, and take it down. Because I normally have decorations, and this is part of our dining room, so I have to clear all that away to do this. So it is beneficial to have a nice, long, flat space with something, with an edge that you can clamp things on. Whenever you clamp things down, make sure they're clamped down snugly. They will always have, and if they don't have this, you can very easily add a little piece of rubber. They will have rubber or foam around the clamps, so you're not going to damage your furniture. So don't be afraid of clamping it down. This will save your sanity at the end. The last thing you want to do is be winding away and have your Swift come off or your ball winder fly off, and then everything's just a mess. So we've got him nice and tight, okay? Now I'm going to move down. You want a considerable amount of space. I have about 2 feet difference between my winder and where I'm going to put my Swift up. Now taken into account, your Swift is going to open. So don't put it too close to a wall. Don't put it too close to anything that it can catch, like fake flowers or something on your wall or anything around it that will obstruct it. So I'm going to come down here about 2 feet away. I'm going to put my Swift on, again, snugly. So he's on there. And you can check, I can open him fully. It's not going to hit anything. He can freely rotate. These are all things, trust me, I've been there. I've been where my Swift has fallen off and then everything gets tangled. I've been where my ball winder's fallen off and everything gets tangled. So take it from me. Make sure everything is snug. So our next tools of business, we need some yarn to wind, and you need snips. Hand-dyed yarn will always have at least one tie. Most of the time they have about 4 ties, but you're gonna need something to snip those with, so scissors, cutters, whatever. Now, ball bands. This is something you may wanna keep. Some people choose to keep their ball bands and take small pieces of the yarn and wrap it around it, or tie it to the end, sort of like a little memento of that yarn. My process is I take the ball band, I wind the yarn, I weigh it, I write the exact weight on the exact ball band, keep it with the project, and then when I'm done with the project, if I don't want to buy any more, I pitch it. And I feel bad because there's a lot of dyers that put a lot of effort and have really high quality ball bands, but I don't have the use for them. But if you want to keep them as a scrapbook memory of that yarn, you can tie a little tassel of the exact yarn or wrap it around and keep it as a memento. Just a tiny little bit of info. If you're wondering what the yarn is that I am winding today, if you follow me at all, you're going to know what the reference is. This is Megs Co on their soft sock base. This is their game day sock set. And ode to Bills Mafia. Go Bills, gotta do it. But I picked a sock set because minis can be different to wind than full skeins. So I'll get into what the little difference may be. But we have our yarn. We had our little ball band discussion. We're going to start with our full skein. Now, you take your skein and you unwind it. You're always going to want to gather your strands. Don't separate it. Gather your strands. Give it a little snap. Get everything nice and organized and flat before we put it on our Swift. We have our flat skein. Put it over your Swift and hold it snug. You're going to expand your Swift to the size of your skein. And a real benefit to umbrella style Swifts is they will expand to a wide variety of skein widths. Now you're seeing all these ties. You have to take those off. There will be a central tie that you will see has 4 ends to it. That is both ends of your yarn and then the tie. Try to leave him till the end. If you do cut him first, it's whatever, but try to leave him to the end. So we get our yarn ties. Now you're going to want to separate the tie away. Pull the tie away a little bit from the yarn, from your actual skein, so you don't accidentally cut the yarn. Katie pro tip, I've done that. So just snip these and untangle them. Typically, there's going to be 3 plain ones, and then your one that is attached to both ends. But every dyer does things different. Now when you get to your main, you're going to cut and it's going to come down. I'm going to tell you something, and this is a huge, huge pro tip here. Some dyers will take this end and they will pull it through. Now, if I start winding this and just pull it, it's a mess, and it's going to 100% guaranteed tangle, and you're going to wind up taking your whatever cake you have at that point off your ball winder, and it's going to be a nightmare. So watch for that. Make sure that when you start, don't just go attach it to the ball winder and go. I like to undo at least probably 2 turns to watch to make sure that it's unwrapping nicely. Now we're back to our ball winder. We have our end of yarn. Remember our little metal arm? You're going to put it straight through the middle of that. And if it comes undone, you're just wrapping it around the coil too. Straight through. There's going to be a slit in the top of your winder. You're going to put your end through those little notches. Now, if you find that your yarn comes off very easily before you can even get it going, you just start to wind and it pops off. You can take your very end and make a single knot and then put your yarn through, pull to the knot. There you go. What I prefer doing, I don't like the knot method. I don't like to knot my yarn if I can help it. We're gonna cut him off because he's gonna give me anxiety. I prefer to just take it down, take my end down to the bottom of your shaft here. This is what your yarn's actually gonna wind on. And I like to hand control the yarn to make sure that it wraps around. As soon as it's secure, I'm good to go. And if you remember, I had you manually unwrap to make sure you were pulling from the outside of the skein on your Swift. So you have this little bit of extra here. So you're going to want to hand wind until that extra is gone. My metal arm is facing my Swift. That's how it needs to be orientated. You can wind. You do, couple pro tips here, just a couple. You do not want to wind too slow. Your cake will not be tight and it will just puke everywhere. You also, on the same token, don't want to wind too fast. It can make your cake too tight and it will stretch your yarn out, and that's not good either. So we don't want to go too slow. We don't want to go too fast. If you do have an issue where you have a snag or a tangle or something gets caught somewhere, if you're not going too fast, you can easily put your hand on your Swift and stop it and stop your winder and then deal with whatever happened and keep going about your business. Not too slow, not too fast, so we can control things. Now I will tell you back on the too tight train. If you end up with a cake that is just too tight, you can see that it's tight, it's rock hard, you can just put the cake on the floor, load your yarn up, and rewind it again to loosen and relax it up. So let's start winding. When I first start winding, I always like to have my hand on the yarn so I can control things better if it is tangled in any way, just until it gets going. You want to go at a moderate speed. You don't necessarily want to go like crazy fast. You also don't want to go crazy slow. Now to stop, if you need to stop, just run your hand on your Swift and it'll stop. And everything is still snug and taut and we're going good. If you notice that your yarn is winding not in the center of your shaft and it's winding all at the bottom, or it's coming off of your bottom plate here and it's winding around the bottom, that means your arm is not in the proper direction. So a good rule of thumb, and that won't happen if you keep a little bit of distance and your arm is in the direction of your Swift. Now something else too. I am winding from this outside edge of my Swift. It doesn't matter if you wind from this side or this side. Ever end you start with. It's fine. It doesn't matter. As long as you're winding, not from pulling from the center of your skein. It's more than fine. Now, another pro tip. See, the other end is getting rather long. And if you watch as it goes around, it's just going to get longer. And it's going to catch every single time it goes around on my main piece of yarn that I'm winding. So if that happens, you're going to want to stop. You're going to want to take it. Most of the time you can just tuck it up underneath the entire skein and he'll be fine. If you need to, you can very loosely tie it around one of your bands of your Swift and then he'll be good to go. But that is another little thing that can be annoying that can happen. Now something to look out for, if you are winding too fast, your Swift will lift up on the base, and that's just too fast. You kind of want him to stay down where he is, stay grounded. Also, if you're winding too fast, you will hear your ball winder skip. The plastic mechanisms inside will actually skip. And you don't want to do that because you don't want to break it. Typically, you're going to be winding skeins that are 50 to 100 grams of yarn. But there's a lot of dyers out there nowadays that offer 500 yard DK skeins, like Miss Babsy Yowza is one of them. But there's a lot of dyers that are offering up much larger skeins. That's not going to fit on here in its entirety. So what I would recommend doing at that point, winding half until it's full, then slipping it off, putting your cake down here, leave your yarn going through your metal arm, just rethread it and cake the rest. Those two cakes will be joined at this point. And this will save you from weaving in an extra end. If you don't care about weaving in an extra end, you can just snip the yarn and do half and half. But it's a way to get the large yardage skeins on a regular size ball winder. And always watch your swift. I always keep eyes on it. I don't have to watch my ball winder, I'm watching my swift. So I can see if something's getting tangled, something's going awry, it doesn't look right, I can stop it. And that's it, just like that, it's magic. So, to take your yarn off, you just slip it off. Now, I've gotten a lot of questions about center pull balls or center pull cakes rather than a cake that is unwound from the outside. The only time I like to use a center pull cake is if I am holding the yarn double and I'm pulling from the center and the outside at the same time. When you pull from the center of a cake, you're taking the inside away first. That's what you're knitting, which will cause it to eventually collapse on itself. If you're holding it double and you pull from the outside and the inside, they're both going away at the same rate, so they'll never collapse. So that is my take on which one I like to use. If you want to make a center pull cake, see this yarn that you initially put over your two little notches? You're going to pull him up. So you have his end here, not hidden. That's what you pull from. I don't do that. So when I pull it off, I'm gonna tuck him in the center. I like to unravel just a few rounds, hand wrap it around the outside, and tuck my end in so I know where he is. And that is your secret to a nice, snug, but not too tight cake that I can go ahead and now knit with. Cakes that are too tight, they're gonna literally, this is squishy, okay? Cakes that are too tight are going to be rock hard. You're not gonna be able to squish it, I don't care what yarn you use. Cakes that are too loose will literally be flopping all over the place. So that comes from your tension, how fast you're winding it, how tight the yarn is between your winder and your swift. Now, I told you before about mini skeins. Mini skeins can be different to wind. Sometimes dyers will, your hank or your skein from like your main color or a full skein will be much shorter and your mini skeins will be much longer. That's where your umbrella swift will take care of the difference. Because they expand to whatever size. And this is going to be a tiny cake. Now, if I have anything less than 10 grams in a mini, I prefer to wind them by hand because I think the cakes are just too small, but it still will wind up in a little cake. So just as we did before, you're gonna cut your ends. Make sure you pull them away from your skein. Last thing we want to do is cut our actual skein of yarn. I've done it, don't do it. Sucks. Remember how I told you you always want to manually unwind the first few turns to make sure nothing's tangled? well, look, this guy's tangled. He's not happy. So you're going to feather out your skein. You're going to find out where he wants to go, where he was pulled through, or anything like that. So same practice as before. We've unwound our first couple turns by hand. First, same practice as before, we go through the loop of the metal arm on our winder, and they're really only ever metal, so you're never going to see plastic ones like that. Do the first few turns to make sure that that yarn gets secured, and then we can go. Make sure you're keeping eyes on your swift at all times. You can have your hand around the yarn too as a safety net. I do that sometimes if I feel like things are going to get tangled a lot. You see my end is just flailing about in the breeze. This is a mini skein and he's not getting tangled on anything, so I'm just going to leave him be. But if he starts to wrap around the base of your swift or your yarn in any capacity, you can very easily stop, tuck him in, or tie him to one of the arms of your swift, and he'll be fine. Just like that, we have a tiny cake. Now, the smaller the cake, they may look a little disheveled sometimes because it's not really possible to get them nice and tight. But I always unwind it a little bit to wrap it around and tuck my end in so I know where it is. But here's a mini. So, works for any size. Full skein, mini skein, doesn't matter. Your ball winder and your swift will work with you for whatever you have on hand. So, if I've forgotten anything, if you have a tip or a trick that you are steadfast by and you love it, please drop a comment so we can all know about it. Do share. Until next time, happy winding, everybody.